So, before we begin the play, I want to take an opportunity to take part in one of my favorite HBHA traditions, which is giving the seniors the proper and hearty send off that they deserve. So, we have four seniors who are a part of this year's show, and those seniors are Mira Goldenberg, Ayelet Schuster, Ethan Herman, and Sarah Seidel. And they have all been a wonderful part of our theater program for the past 4 years. And I want to take a moment to thank each of them for everything they've contributed. So our first senior is Mira. Coming out, Mira. Oh, here she is. Hello, Mira. This is Mira's second year in an HBHA play. Her first year was last year as a junior in Almost Maine, when she played the role of Dina in the scene They Fell. And this year, she plays the role of Miss Preen in The Man Who Came to Dinner. The great thing about Mira is, so most people who act in our shows start earlier. They usually appear in a show their freshman or their sophomore year, but Mira came to the game late, and her first time was junior year. And I'm so glad that, Mira, that you decided to join our HBHA theater family. And when I think about the thing that makes you a great actress, the first thing that comes to mind, there's a lot of things, but the first thing that comes to mind is the way that you perform with your entire body, right? The physicality you bring to the stage. And here's what I mean by that. For those who saw Almost Maine last year, you might recall Mira collapsing in the middle of her scene on stage. And that was intentional. She was playing a scene where she instantaneously fell in love, and that was represented by her literally falling in love. And I remember that the entire audience kind of gasped when she did it, because it looked like she just fell and smashed her face on the ground. And they say that actors, when they're new to acting, sometimes act very limitedly, and they kind of use only small parts of their arms or aren't fully expressive. But Mira really acts with her entire body, and her entire facial expressions come into it. This year, as Miss Preen, who is the nurse of Sheridan Whiteside, she gets to play all sorts of variations on angry, disgruntled, and frustrated. And she does a fantastic job with it. And I think you'll see that come through even in just a Zoom performance, not on stage. You will see all of that physicality in her performances. So Mira, you're a wonderful actress. It has been so fun directing you these past 2 years in the show. I'm so glad that you are a part of HBHA Theater, and I hope that everyone at home right now is giving you the hearty round of applause that you so richly deserve, and I will give it to you here. Mira, thank you for everything. And I'm giving you a virtual hug through the Zoom, as I do on stage, to the seniors. Thank you, Mira. Our next senior is Ayelet Schuster. Coming out here, Ayelet. Ayelet has joined the virtual Zoom. Ayelet, welcome. This is Ayelet's third year in an HBHA high school play. Her first performance was as a freshman in the Laramie Project, where she performed a variety of roles. Most notably, and at least on my end, the name that always sticks out is Zachy Salmon, because that's just one of the greatest names of all time, who was a Southern girl from Texas, if I'm remembering correctly, and a variety of other roles. There were many roles that each actor played in the Laramie Project. Last year in Almost Maine, she appeared alongside Mira in that same scene, They Fell, and she played the role of Shelley. And this year, she played in The Man Who Came to Dinner, she plays the role of Mrs. Stanley. Daisy is the first name. We don't hear Daisy a lot, but we hear a lot of Mrs. Stanley. Ayelet is a wonderful actress. Ayelet, I have so very much enjoyed directing you these past 3 years. And the thing that comes to mind to me most prominently when I think of you on stage is how you are able to take any bit of stage business, whether it's a small thing, whether it can be one line, whether it's just one stage direction, and do so much with it. And the ability to take anything, whether it's an arched eyebrow or the way that you look at someone else on stage or how you deliver even a single line, is a very difficult thing for an actor to do. A lot of times when people think about acting, they think about going really big with shouting or huge mannerisms. And that's not really what acting's about. Acting is about bringing characters to life and that is about understanding them deeply. And if you are able to take something seemingly small, I think you guys will notice as you watch this performance of The Man Who Came to Dinner that Mrs. Stanley is frequently very flustered, that there's a lot going on around her, and she's just trying to make sense of it all. And Ayelet does that hilariously with the character, but also does it in a very real, humane, relatable way. And that is a tough skill as an actor, and that's something I really admire about you and all the performances that you've done on stage. So Ayelet, it has been a blast directing you in 3 different shows. I will miss you greatly, and this is me giving you your virtual Zoom senior hug send-off, which I'm now realizing as I look at the camera looks very strange, but I hope that you will take it with you. And thank you for everything, and I and everyone at home is giving you a rich round of applause right now. Thank you, Ayelet. Our next senior is Ethan Herman. Here comes Ethan. Welcome, Ethan. Ethan is also performing in his 3rd HBHA show. His first show was as a sophomore in The Curious Savage. We have our first Curious Savage performer here, where he played the role of Jeff. Last year in Almost Maine, he was in the scene Getting It Back, where he played the role of Lendl, always a memorable name, Lendl. And this year he plays a couple different parts in The Man Who Came to Dinner, but most notably Richard Stanley, who is the son of in the Stanley household. And Ethan, it has been wonderful directing you in each of these 3 shows. And what comes to mind for me when I think of you in all of these performances, in what really is a common thread in all of them, is the depth of humanity with which you imbue each character. And what I mean by that is you just in general are a very kind and caring and humane person. And that shines through in the characters you portray. And the reason I think you're able to do that is because a really good actor empathizes with and really understands internally who their characters are. And they build a character from the inside out. They don't say, okay, here's a bunch of mannerisms that I'm going to throw together. They start with, who is this person? What are their desires? What are their wants? And it doesn't even matter the size of the role of the character. Some of the characters you play here, there's a character you play here who, in addition to Richard Stanley, a character who appears in just one scene, whose name is Professor Metz, who is kind of a hilarious, smaller character who you'll play in The Man Who Came to Dinner. But even with him, you build him from the inside out, and he's a character who people can understand. And I think that's a common thread dating back to your first performance as Jeff in The Curious Savage, who was a very lovable person. And you understood that. And you take the humanity that you have and you bring that to each of your characters, and that helps bring them all to life and makes them people who the audience can understand and that they can really care about. So, Ethan, I have loved directing you in each of the past 3 shows. I will greatly miss you, as will the entire HBHA theater audience next year. And thank you for everything that you've brought in your performances to HBHA theater. And here is your virtual Zoom hug and greeting and farewell. Here's my round of applause, and hopefully everyone at home is giving you one as well. Thank you, Ethan. Our final senior is Sarah Seidel. Welcome, Sarah. Sarah is one of our lifers. I hope that we have one every year. By a lifer, I mean someone who has appeared in all 4, count them up, all 4 HBHA productions. Let's see. That means there's a lot of roles I got to remember off the top of my head. Let's see if I can do it. So her freshman year in the Laramie Project, she played a variety of roles, including Catherine Connolly, a college professor, and Rulon Stacy, who was the chief of the hospital where Matthew Shepard was brought and where he passed away. Her sophomore year in The Curious Savage, she played Lily Bell Savage, who was the stepdaughter of Mrs. Savage. And junior year, that was last year in Almost Maine, she played the role of Hope in the scene A Story of Hope. And she also had a small role of Waitress, who was revealed to be Villian in the segment called Sad and Glad. And this year in The Man Who Came to Dinner, she plays Maggie Cutler, who is the long-suffering secretary, personal assistant, and basically personal care manager of Sheridan Whiteside, who over the course of the play, you'll see, decides that she's just kind of had enough of his shenanigans and starts to chart her own path away from him. So Sarah, that's a lot of roles. We've gotten to spend a lot of time together the past 4 years in plays, and I really can't thank you enough for all the things that you've done in your HBHA theater career. And the thing that stands out to me and that I will remember and think about as I say all those great performances you've done the past 4 years is your versatility. Right, you can do basically anything on stage. You can play. Last year in A Story of Hope, that segment from Almost Maine, that was a really sad scene about a woman who is coming back to her hometown after years away to tell a man who she left behind that she loves him, and he's gotten married to someone else. And it's really like genuinely moving and sad. A lot of people came up to me after the show and said that particular scene made them cry. And you contrast that with something like The Curious Savage, where you played Lily Bell, who's kind of this, for those who remember that show, this monstrous woman who is super greedy and just wants money and will do anything to do it and is super superficial. And you were absolutely hilarious in it, right? And then this year you play a more grounded character, Maggie, who's one of the main characters in the show. And in a show where there's a lot of kind of larger than life characters in this show, Maggie is a bit more grounded, but you're all these different things. You play her emotionally real. She's hilarious. She's all sorts of different things. And that's what I'll always remember is the way that you can kind of run the whole spectrum of performances in your acting, from hilarious to heartwarming to sad. And that's the mark of a really great actor, is someone who can do anything on stage and take the audience on a journey with them. So Sarah, it has been so fun directing you these past 4 years, and I will miss you, and everyone I know will miss watching you on stage. So here is your virtual Zoom hug, and me giving you a well-deserved round of applause that I hope everyone is giving you at home as well. Could all 4 of you guys come out for a minute? Here they all are. Here they are. So Tamira, Ayelet, Ethan, and Sarah, I know that the way that I really wanted to send you guys off was on stage in front of well over 100 people watching our performances live in the White Theater at the JCC. I know that that's where we all wish we were right now. And it's unfortunate that we can't be there. But know that your performances and your contributions to HBHA Theater are so greatly appreciated by me, by your cast, who you've worked with this year and in previous years, and by the audiences who have been fortunate enough to watch you guys. You guys are all wonderful performers. I'm going to miss you guys so very much. And I invite everyone at home right now to give this quartet of actors one final round of applause. Woo-hoo! I know it's not just me. There's other people at home doing it as well. Okay. Well, with that, everybody, it is now time for us to start our performance of The Man Who Came to Dinner. So this is nice. You can have some food. You can maybe have some popcorn or some lasagna and, a soda. Yeah, you can have lasagna. They can have a full dinner and dim the lights at home, get the pets cuddled up next to you, and enjoy the entertaining The Man Who Came to Dinner.
Great dribbling cow.
How is he? Is he coming out?
I'll go, Mother.
What's the matter? What is it, John?
I want pillows.
Anything I can do, Miss Preen?
No, thank you.
Don't call yourself a doctor in my presence.
4 more cablegrams and more packages. Dad's going crazy upstairs with that bell ringing all the time.
Oh dear. June, will you go? What did you say, Richard?
One's from New York and one's from San Francisco.
There was one from Alaska early this morning.
Really?
Doesn't that bird brain of yours ever function?
Yes, that's right.
Who is it?
Oh, I'll get them right away. He wants some Players Club cigarettes.
Players Club.
They have him at Kitchener's. I'll run down and get him.
Hello. Yes, I'm waiting.
Tell me, Miss Preen, are they bringing him out soon?
We're getting him out of bed now. He'll be out very soon. Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad. He must be very happy.
Trapped like a rat in this hellhole.
2 o'clock? Yes, I think he could talk then. All right. Well, who do you think that was? Mr. H.G. Wells from...
H.G. Wells on our telephone?
I'll go. This certainly is a busy house.
I got his orange juice.
Oh, that's fine, Sarah. Is it fresh?
Yes, ma'am.
You move like a broken down truck horse.
His voice is just the same as on the radio.
Good morning.
Girls, what do you think? He's getting up and coming out this morning.
You don't mean it. Can we stay and see him?
Why, of course, he'd love it. Girls, do you know what just happened?
I'll be upstairs, Mother, if you want me.
What? Oh, yes, June. Tell your father he better come down, will you? Mr. Whiteside is coming out.
Yes, Mother.
Is he really coming out this morning? I brought him a plant. Do you think it's all right if I give it to him?
Why, I think that would be lovely.
And some calf's foot jelly.
Why, how nice. Who do you think that was on the phone just now? H.G. Wells from London. And look at all those cablegrams. He's had calls and messages from all over this country and Europe. The New York Times and Felix Frankfurter and Dr. Defoe, the Mount Wilson Observatory. I just can't tell you what's been going on. I'm simply exhausted.
There's a big piece about it in this week's Times. Did you see it?
No.
Your name's in it too, Daisy. Listen. Portly Sheridan Whiteside, critic, lecturer, wit, radio orator, intimate friend of the great and near great, last week found a celebrated wit no weapon for which to combat an injured hip. The Falstaffian Mr. Whiteside, trekking across the country on one of his annual lecture tours, met his Waterloo in the shape of a small piece of ice on the doorstep of Mr. and Mrs. Ernest W. Stanley of Massalia, Ohio. Result, canceled lectures and disappointment to thousands of adoring clubwomen in Omaha, Denver, and Points West. Further result, the idol of the airwaves rests until further notice in the home of surprise Mr. and Mrs. Stanley. Possibility, Christmas may be postponed this year. What's that mean?
A small piece of ice on the doorstep of Mr. and Mrs. Think of it.
Of course, if it were my house, Daisy, I'd have a bronze plate put on the step, right where he fell.
Well, of course I felt terrible about it. He just never goes to dinners anywhere. And he finally agreed to come here, and then this had to happen. Poor Mr. Whiteside. But it's going to be so wonderful having him with us, even for a little while. Just think of it. We'll sit around in the evenings and discuss books and plays and all the great people he's known. And he'll talk in that wonderful way of his. And he may even read Goodbye, Mr. Chips to us.
Daisy, I can't wait any longer. Mr. Whiteside, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
He's coming out any minute. And H.G. Wells telephoned from London. And we're in time. Look.
I don't like this kind of publicity at all, Daisy. When do you suppose he's going to leave?
Well, he's only getting up this morning. After all, he's had quite a shock. He's been ahead for 2 full weeks. So he'll certainly have to rest a few days, Ernest.
Well, I'm sure it's a great honor his being in the house, but it is a little upsetting. Phone going all the time, bells ringing, messenger boys running in and out.
Have the cigarettes come yet?
They're on the way, Miss Cutler. My son went for them.
Thank you.
This is Miss Cutler, Mr. Whiteside's secretary.
How do you do? May I move this chair?
You mean he's coming out now?
Yes, indeed.
He's coming out! I can hardly wait.
June, Mr. Whiteside is coming out.
Mr. Whiteside is coming out.
I'm so excited, I just don't know what to do.
Me too. I know that I'll simply...
Good morning, Dr. Bradley.
Good morning, good morning. Well, here we are, merry and bright. Bring our little patient out, Miss Green.
I may vomit.
Good morning, Mr. Whiteside. I'm Mrs. Ernest Stanley, remember? And this is Mr. Stanley.
How do you do, Mr. Whiteside? I hope that you are well.
Thank you. I'm suing you for $150,000.
How's that? What?
I said I am suing you for $150,000.
You mean because you fell on our steps, Mr. Whiteside?
Samuel J. Leibowitz will explain it to you in court. Who are those two harpies standing there like the kiss of death?
Have foot jelly!
Made from your own foot, I have no doubt. And now, Miss Stanley, I have a few matters to take up with you. Since this corner druggist at my elbow tell that I shall be confined to this Mullery mortuary for at least another 10 days, due entirely to your stupidity and negligence, I shall have to carry on my activities as best as I can. I shall require exclusive use of this room, as well as the drafty sewer which you call the library. I want no one to come in or out while I am in this room.
What do you mean, sir?
We have to go up the stairs to get to our rooms, Mr. Whiteside.
Isn't there a back entrance?
Why, yes.
Then use that. I shall also require a room for my secretary, Miss Cutler. Let me see. I shall have a great many incoming and outgoing calls, so please do not use the telephone. I sleep until noon and must have quiet throughout the house until that hour. There will be 5 for lunch tray. Where is the cook?
Mr. Whiteside, if I may interrupt for a moment.
No, you may not, sir. Will you get your clammy hands off of my chair? You have the touch of a sex-starved cobra. And now, you will all leave quietly, or must I ask my secretary to pass among you with a baseball bat?
Well, goodbye, Daisy. We'll call you. Oh, no, we mustn't use the phone. Well, we'll see you.
Goodbye.
Now look here, Mr. Whiteside.
There is nothing to discuss, sir. Considering the damage I have suffered at your hands, I'm asking very little. Good day.
I'll call you from the office later, Daisy.
Not on this phone, please. Here's the menu for lunch.
But I've already ordered lunch.
It will be sent up to you on a tray. I'm using the dining room for my guests. Where are those cigarettes?
Why, my son went for them. I don't know why he... Here, Sarah, here's the menu for lunch. I'll have mine upstairs on a tray.
Young lady, I cannot stand indecision. Will you either go up the stairs or come down them?
Oh, good morning, Mr. Whiteside. Here are the cigarettes. I'm sorry I was so long. I had to go to 3 different stores.
You were gone long enough to have a baby. Is there a man in this world who suffers from, from the gross inadequacies of the human race? Go and read the life of Florence Nightingale and learn how unfitted you are for your chosen profession.
Well, I think I can safely leave you in Miss Cutler's capable hands. Shall I look it again this afternoon?
If you do, I shall spit right in your eye.
What a sense of humor you writers have. By the way, it isn't really worth mentioning, but I've been doing a little writing myself about my medical experiences.
Am I to be spared nothing?
Would it be too much to ask you to glance over it while you're here?
Trapped.
Well, I just happen to have a copy with me. The story of a humble practitioner of 40 years in Ohio doctor.
I will drop everything.
Thank you, and I hope you like it. Well, see you on the morrow. Keep that hit quiet, and don't forget those little pills. Goodbye.
Oh. Maggie, will you take 40 years below the navel, or whatever it's called?
Well, I must say, you certainly behaved with all of your accustomed grace and charm.
Look here, Puss. I'm in no mood to discuss my behavior, good or bad. I have no desire to cross this cheerless threshold. I was hounded and badgered into it. And now I find myself, after lacking pain, accused of behaving without charm. What would you have me do? Kiss them?
Very well, Sherry. After 10 years, I should have known better than to try to do anything about your manners. But when I finally give up this job, I may write a book about it all, through the years of Prince Charming.
Listen, Repulsive. You are tied to me with an umbilical cord made of piano wire. And now, if we may dismiss the subject of my charm, for which, incidentally, I receive $1,500 per appearance, Possibly we can get back to work. Oh, no, we can't. Yes.
My name is Harriet Stanley. I know you were Sheridan Whiteside. I saw this holly, going green against the pine trees. I remembered what you'd written about Tess and Jude the Obscure. It was the nicest present I could bring you.
For God's sake, what was that?
That was Mr. Stanley's sister, Harriet. I've talked to her a few times. She's quite strange.
Strange. She's right out of the Hound of Baskervilles. You know, I've seen that face somewhere.
As you couldn't have.
Oh well, let's get down to work. Here, press this in the doctor's book. I see no reason why I should endorse maiden form brasiers.
Here's some telegrams.
What date is this?
December 10th.
Send a wire to Columbia Broadcasting. You can schedule my Christmas Eve broadcast from the New York studio, as I shall return east instead of proceeding to Hollywood. Stop.
Are you sure you'll be all right by Christmas, Sherry?
Of course I will. Send a cable to Mahatma Gandhi, Bombay, India. Dear Boo Boo, schedule changed. Can you meet me Katakal, July 12th? Dinner 8:30, Whiteside. Wire to the editor of Atlantic Monthly. Do not worry, Stinky. Copy will arrive. Arthur Toscanini. Where is he?
I'll find him.
If that's for Miss Stanley, tell him she's too drunk to talk.
Hello? What? Hollywood.
If that's Goldwyn, hang up.
Hello, Banjo.
Banjo, give me that phone.
Banjo, you and so. How are you, darling?
Give me the phone.
Shut up, Sherry. Are you coming east, Banjo? I miss you. Oh, he's gonna live.
Stop driveling and give me the phone.
In fact, he's screaming at me right now. Here he is.
Banjo, you old sons. How are you, you fawns behind? And what are you giving me for Christmas? Ha ha ha. What news, Banjo, my boy? How's the picture coming? How are Wacko and Sloppo? No, I'm all right. Yes, in very good hands. I've got the best horse doctor in town. What about you? Having any fun? Playing any cribbage? What? Ha ha ha! Well, don't take all his money. Leave a little bit for me. Your what? Having your portrait painted? By whom? Milt Gross? Not really. No, I'm going back to New York. I'll be there for 12 days, and then I go to Dartmouth for the drama festival. You wouldn't understand. Well, I can't waste my time talking to Hollywood riffraff. Kiss Llewellyn Parsons for me. Goodbye. He took $1,400 from Sam Goldwyn at cribbage last night, and Sam said, Banjo, I will never play garbage with you again.
What's all this about having his portrait painted?
Salvador Dali. That's all that a face of his needs. A surrealist to paint it. What do you want now, Miss Bedfan?
It's your pills, Mr. Whiteside. One every 45 minutes.
Now, where were we?
Here's a cable from that dear friend of yours, Lorraine Sheldon.
Let me see it.
Sherry, my poor sweet lamb. I've been to Scotland on a shooting trip with Lord and Lady Cunard and only just heard of your poor sweet hip. I'm down here in Surrey with Lord Bottomley, sailing Wednesday on the Normandy. I cannot wait to see my poor sweet Sherry, your blossom girl Lorraine. In the words of the master, I may vomit.
Don't be bitter, Puss, just because Lorraine is more beautiful than you are.
Lorraine Sheldon is a fair example of that small but vicious circle you move in.
Pure sex jealousy, if I ever saw it. Give me the rest of those.
Lorraine Sheldon, Lord Bottomley, my Annie.
Ah, it's from Destiny's Topped.
Oh, England's Little Rover.
Dear baby's breath, what is this I hear about a hip fracture and some Borrelio brawl? Does this mean our Hollywood Christmas party's off? Finished the new play in Pago Pago and it's superb. Myself and a ukulele leave for Honolulu tomorrow in that order. By the way, the Sultan of Zanzibar wants to meet Ginger Rogers. Let's face it, Oscar Wilde.
He does travel, doesn't he? You know, it'd be nice if the world went around Beverly Carlton for a change.
Hollywood next week? Why couldn't he stop over on his way to New York? Send him a cable. Beverly Carlton, Royal Hawaiian Hotel, Honolulu. These people intend to have their friends using the front door.
What do you want them to do? Use a rope ladder?
I will not have a lot of mildewed pus bags running around this house while I'm...
Oh, good morning, Mr. Jefferson.
Good morning, John.
There's nobody home. The Stanleys have been arrested. Go away.
Good morning, Mr. Whiteside. I'm Jefferson of the Massalia Journal.
Get rid of him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whiteside is seeing no one.
Really?
So will you excuse us? Good day.
Mr. Whiteside seems to be sitting up and taking notice.
I'm afraid he's not taking notice of the Massalia Journal. Do you mind?
You know, if I'm going to be insulted, I'd like it to be by Mr. Whiteside himself. I never did like carbon copies.
Touche if I ever heard one. And in Massalia too, Maggie dear.
Will you please leave?
How about an interview, Mr. Whiteside?
I never give them. Go away.
Mr. Whiteside, if I don't get this interview, then I lose my job.
That would be quite all right with me.
Now, you don't mean that, Mr. Whiteside. You used to be a newspaper man yourself. You know what editors are like. Well, mine's the toughest one that ever lived.
You won't get around me that way. If you don't like him, get off the paper.
Yes, but I happen to think it's a good paper. William Allen White could have gotten out of Emporia, but he didn't.
You have the effrontery in my presence to compare yourself with William Allen White?
Only in the sense that White stayed in Emporia. Stay here and say what I want to say.
Such as what?
Well, I can't put it into words, Mr. Whiteside. It sounds like an awful lot of hooey. But the journal was my father's paper. It's kind of a sentimental point with me, the paper, so I'd like to carry off where I left off.
So you own the paper, eh?
That's right.
Then this terrifying editor, this dread journalistic apocalypse is you yourself?
In a word, yes.
I see.
In the future, Sherry, let me know when you don't want to talk to people. I'll let you know later.
Young man, come over here. I suppose you've written that novel?
No, I've written that play.
Well, I don't want to read it. Do these old eyes to see a box of goodies over there? Hand them to me, will you?
The trouble is, Mr. Whiteside, that your being in this town comes under the heading of news. Practically the biggest news since the Depression. So I just gotta get a story.
Pecan butternut fudge.
Oh my, you mustn't eat candy, Mr. Whiteside. It's very bad for you.
My great aunt Jennifer ate a whole box of candy every day of her life. She lived to be 102, and when she had been dead for 3 days, she looked better than you do now. What were you saying, old fellow? What were you saying?
I can at least report to my readers that chivalry is not yet dead.
We won't discuss it. Well, now that you have won me with your pretty ways, what would you like to know?
Well, how about a brief talk on famous murders? You're an authority on murder as a fine art.
My dear, when I talk about murder, I get paid for it. I have made more money out of the Senator Gray case than the lawyers did, so don't expect to get it for nothing.
Well then, what do you think of Massalia? How long are you going to be here? Where are you going? Things like that.
Very well. A, Massalia is a town of irresistible charm. B, I cannot wait to get out of it. And C, I'm going from here to Crockfield for my semi-annual visit to the Crockfield Home for Paroled Convicts, for which I have raised over $500,000 in the last 5 years. From there, I go to New York. Have you ever been to Crockfield, Mr. Jefferson?
No, I haven't. I always meant to.
As a newspaper man, you ought to go instead of wasting your time here with me. It's only about 75 miles from here. Did you ever hear how Crockfield started?
No, I didn't.
Sit down, Jefferson. Make yourself comfortable. It is one of the most enduring and touching stories of our generation. One misty St. Valentine's Eve. The year was 1901. A little lady who had given her name to an era, Victoria, lay dying in Windsor Castle. Maud Adams had not yet caused every young heart to swell as she tripped across the stage as Peter Pan. Irving Berlin had not written the first note of an ragtime rigadoon that was to set a nation's feet a-tapping, and Elias P. Crockfield was just emerging from the state penitentiary. Astute, embittered, cruel of heart, he wandered into the St. Valentine's Eve into a little church. But there was no godliness in his heart that night, no prayer upon his lips. In faltering twilight, Elias P. Crockfield made his way to the poor box. He ripped open the poignant testimony of a simple people's faith. Brutally, he clutched at the few pitiful coins within, and then, A child's wavering tremble broke the twilight stillness. Mr. Man, said a girl's voice, won't you be my Valentine? Elias P. Cruffield turned. Before him, a bewitching little creature of 5, her yellow curls cascading over her shoulders like a golden Niagara, in her teeny outstretched hand, a humble Valentine. In one crystal moment, a sealed door was opened in the heart of Elias P. Crockfield. In his mind was born an idea. 25 years later, 3,000 ruddy-cheeked convicts were gamboling on the broad lawns of Crockfield home, frolicking in the cool depths of broadcasting with their own symphony orchestra from their own radio station. Elias P. Crockfield has long since gone to his maker, but the little girl of golden curls, now grown to lovely womanhood, is known as the Angel of Crockfield, for she is the wife of the warden. And in the main halls of Crockfield, between our Remembrance and El Greco, there hangs, in a simple little frame, a humble Valentine.
In the men's washroom, every Christmas, a ghost of Elias P. Crockfield appears in one of the booths. Will you sign this, please?
This aging debutante, Mr. Jefferson, I retain my employ only because she is the sole support of her two-headed brother.
I understand. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Whiteside. You've been very kind. By the way, I'm a cribbage player if you need one while you're here.
Fine. How much can you afford to lose?
I usually win.
We won't discuss it. Come back at 8:30. We'll play three-handed with Elise Dinsmore.
Sherry!
Metz, you incredible beetle hound, what are you doing here?
I explained, Sherry. First, I kissed my little Maggie.
That's our wonderful surprise.
The enchanted Metz. Jefferson, you are standing in the presence of Professor Adolf Metz, the world's greatest authority on insect life.
How do you do?
How do you do, Vel Sherry?
Metz, stop looking at me adoringly and tell me why you're here.
You are sick, Sherry, so I come to cheer you.
Jefferson, he lived for 2 years in a cave with nothing but plant lice. He writes 3 pages in the Encyclopedia Britannica. Don't you, my little hookworm?
Please, Sherry, you embarrass me. Look, I has brought for you a present of I'll evade the hours. Please. I said to my students, boys and girls, I want to give a present to my sick friend Sheridan Whiteside. Do you know what we did? We made for you a community of Paraplaneta Americana, commonly known as the American cockroach. Behold, Sherry, Roach City. Inside here are 10,000 cockroaches. And in 1 week, Sherry, if all goes well, there will be 50,000.
All goes well. What can go wrong? They're in there, aren't they?
Quiet, please.
You can watch them, Sherry, while they live as their whole. Look, here's their maternity ward. It is found to do everything that human beings do.
Well.
Please, Maggie, these are my cockroaches.
Sorry.
With these earphones, Sherry, you listen to the mating calls. There are microphones down inside. Listen.
How long has this been going on?
Aha! Paraplaneta Americana. There are cockroaches in this house.
I beg your pardon. Mr. Whiteside, I don't know who this man is, but I will not stand here and...
Then go upstairs. These are probably my luncheon guests. Matt, you're staying for the day, of course.
Certainly.
Jefferson, stay for lunch?
Glad to.
Maggie, tell him there'll be 2 more. Come right in, Baker. Good morning. Jefferson, here are the fruits of that humble Valentine. These men, now serving the final months of their prison terms, have chosen to enter the ivy-colored walls of Crockfield. They have come here today to learn a little from me of its tradition. Gentlemen, I envy your great adventure. You're Michelson, aren't you? Butcher Shop Murders?
Yes, sir.
I thought I recognized you. The last fellow, Jefferson, is Henderson, the hatchet fiend. Always chopped him up in a salad bowl, remember?
Oh, yes.
Lunch is ready, Mr. Whiteside.
Good. Let's go right in.
Can I help you?
Thank you. We're having chicken liver tetrazzini and cherry jambalaya for dessert. I hope every little tummy is aflutter with gastric juices. John, close the door. I don't want a lot of people prying on their betters. I was dreaming of Lillian Russell, and I awake to find you.
Your medicine, Mr. Whiteside.
What time is it?
About 6:30.
Where is Miss Cutler?
She went out.
Out?
With Mr. Jefferson.
She has? Ah, my souffle queen.
Here I am, Mr. Whiteside.
She walks in, beauty like the night, and in those deft hands is there the art of Michelangelo. Let me taste this new goodie.
I put a touch of absinthe in the dough. Do you like it?
Ambrosia.
And I got you your terrapin Maryland for dinner.
I've known but 3 great cooks in my time. The Godiva of Egypt has one, my grand-aunt Jennifer another, and the third, Sarah, is you.
Oh, Mr. Whiteside.
Tell me, how would you like to come to New York and work for me, you and Johnny?
Why, Mr. Whiteside? Why, it kind of takes my breath away. It would be wonderful, Mr. Whiteside, but what would we say to Mr. and Mrs. Stanley? They'd be awfully mad, wouldn't they? They've been very kind to us.
Well, just goodbye. If they ever come to New York, we can have them for dinner if I'm not in town. Now, run along and think this over. This is our little secret, just between us. And put plenty of sherry in that terrapin. Miss Preen! Miss Preen!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What have you got in there anyway, a sailor?
I was just washing my hands.
What time did Miss Cutler go out?
Oh, a couple hours ago.
Mr. Jefferson called for her?
Yes, sir.
All right. Go back to your sailor.
Dear Mr. Whiteside, may I share with you a few mementos of the past? I somehow feel as though you'd love them as I do.
I would be delighted. Miss Stanley, haven't we met somewhere before?
Oh no, I would have remembered. It would have been one of my cherished memories. Like these. Look! Here I am with my first sweetheart, under our lovely beechwood trees. I was 8 and he was 10. I've never forgotten him. What happy times we had. What?
I tell you, I'm going to.
There's someone coming. I'll come back.
Now, Ernest, please.
Be quiet, Daisy. Mr. Whiteside, I want to talk to you. I don't care whether you're busy or not. I have stood all that I am going to stand.
Indeed.
This is the last straw. I've just received a bill from the telephone company for $784. Oklahoma City, Calcutta, Hollywood, Australia, Rome, New York, New York, New York, New York. Now I realize, Mr. Whiteside, that you are a distinguished man of letters.
Yes, of course, we both do.
Please. But in the past week, we have not been able to call our souls our own. We have not had a meal in the dining room once. I have to tiptoe out of the house in the mornings.
No, Ernest.
Or I come home to find convicts sitting at my dinner table, butcher shop murders, a man putting cockroaches in the kitchen.
They just escaped, Ernest.
That's not the point. I go into my bathroom and bump into 22 Chinese students that you invited here. I tell you, I won't stand for it, Mr. Whiteside, no matter who you are.
Have you quite finished?
No, I have not. I go down into the cellar this morning and trip over that octopus that William Beebe sent you. I tell you, I won't stand for it, Mr. Whiteside. I want you to leave this house as soon as you can and go to a hotel. Stop bothering me, Daisy. That's all I've got to say, Mr. Whiteside.
And quite enough, I should think. May I remind you again, Mr. Stanley, that I'm not a willing guest in this house. I am informed by my doctor that I must remain quiet for the next 10 days, at which time I shall get out of here so fast that the wind will knock you over, I hope. However, if you insist on my leaving before that, thereby causing me to suffer a relapse, I shall sue you for every additional day that I am held inactive, which, I assure you, will amount to a tidy sum.
This is outrageous! Outrageous!
As for the details of your petty complaints, those 22 Chinese students came straight from the White House, where I assure you they used the bathroom as well.
Mr. Whiteside, my husband didn't mean.
Yes, I did. I meant every word of it.
There's only one point in which you make that I see some slight justice. I do not expect you to pay for my telephone calls. I shall see to it that restitution is made. Can you provide me with the exact amount?
I certainly can, and I certainly will.
Good. I shall instruct my lawyers to deduct it from the $150,000 I'm suing you for.
Now, Ernest.
And I shall thank you not to trip over that octopus which once belonged to Chancey Depew.
You mustn't get excited. Remember, Mr. Whiteside is a guest here.
Give me the Massilia Journal, please. Hello? Journal? Is Mr. Jefferson there? When do you expect him? No message. Come here, you two. Come on, I'm not going to bite you. Now, look here. I'm by nature a gracious and charming person. If I veer it is on the side of kindness and ambiguity. I've been observing you for the past week, and you seem to be extremely likable young people. I'm afraid that when we first met, I was definitely unpleasant to you, and for that I am sorry. I wish in the future you would not treat me out of something from an Edgar Allan Poe. Do you like my new tie?
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. This makes things much pleasanter, and I think your tie is very pretty.
Well, now that we're on speaking terms, Mr. Whiteside, I don't mind telling you that I've been admiring all your ties.
Do you like this one?
I certainly do.
It's yours.
Oh, thank you.
Really, this curious legend that I'm a difficult person is pure fabrication. Ice skating, eh? Ah, me. I used to cut figure eights arm in arm with Betsy Ross, waving the flag behind us.
It was wonderful on the ice today. Miss Cutler and Mr. Jefferson were there.
Maggie? Ice skating?
Yeah, and she's good too. I got a marvelous picture of her.
Were they still there when you left?
I think so.
Yes, they were.
Mr. Whiteside, mind if I take a picture of you? I'd love to have one.
Very well. Do you want my profile?
I'm afraid you're done for, Mr. Whiteside. My brother is a camera fiend.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. I got a great one.
Hello there. Good evening, Sherry. Really, Sherry, you've got this room looking like an old parrot cage. Did you nap while I was out? What's the matter? Cat run away with your tongue?
Don't look at me with those great cow eyes, you sex-ridden hag. Where have you been all afternoon? Alley-catting around with Bert Jefferson?
Sherry, Bert read me his play this afternoon. It's superb. Isn't just that play written by a newspaper man. It's superb. I want you to read it tonight. It just cries out for Cornell. Will you send it to her, Sherry, and will you read it tonight?
No, I will not read it tonight or any other time. And while we're on the subject of Bert Jefferson, you might ask him if he wouldn't want to pay your salary since he takes up all of your time.
Oh, come on now, Sherry. It isn't as bad as that.
I've not been able to reach you, not even knowing what haylofts you frequent.
Oh, Sherry, stop behaving like a child.
Don't take that patronizing tone with me, you flea-bitten Cleopatra. I'm sick and tired of you sneaking out like some lovesick high school girl every time my back is turned.
Well, Sherry, I'm afraid you've hit the nail on the head.
Stop acting like Zazu Pitts and explain yourself.
I'll make it quick, Sherry. I'm in love.
Nonsense. This is merely delayed puberty.
No, Sherry, I'm afraid this is it. You're going to lose a very excellent secretary.
You are out of your mind.
Yes, I think I am a little, but I'm a girl who's waited a long time for this to happen, and now it has. Mr. Jefferson doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to try my darndest to marry him.
Is that all?
Yes, except that, well, I suppose is what might be called my resignation as soon as you got someone else.
Now listen to me, Maggie. We've been together for a long time, and you're indispensable to me. But I am unselfish enough not to let that stand in the way where your happiness is concerned. Because whether you know it or not, I have a deep affection for you.
I know that, Sherry.
That being the case, I will not stand by and allow you to make a fool of yourself.
I'm not, Sherry.
You are, my dear. You are behaving like a Booth Tarkinson heroine. It's incredible. I cannot believe that a girl who for the past 10 years has had the great of the world served up on a platter before her. I cannot believe that this is anything but a temporary insanity where you swept off your feet in 7 days by a second-rate small-town newspaper man.
Sherry, I can't explain what's happened. I can only tell you that it's so. It's hard for me to believe too, Sherry. Here I am, a hard-bitten old cynic behaving like True Story magazine and liking it, discovering the moon and ice skating. I keep laughing to myself and all the time, but there it is. And what can I do about it, Sherry? I'm in love.
We're leaving tomorrow. Hip or no hip, we're leaving here tomorrow. I don't care if I fracture the other one. Get me a train schedule and start packing. I'll pull you out of this, Miss Stardust. I'll get the ants out of those moonlit pants.
It's no good, Sherry. It's no good. I'll be back on the next steamline train.
It's completely unbelievable. Can you see yourself, wife of the editor of the Massilia Journal, having an evening home for Mr. and Mrs. Stanley, Mr. and Mrs. Poopface, and the rest of the members of the Book of the Month Club?
Sherry, I've had 10 years of the great figures of our time, and don't think I'm not grateful to you for it. I've loved every minute of it. They've been wonderful years, Sherry. Gay and stimulating. I don't think anyone's had the fun we've had. But a girl can't laugh all the time, Sherry. There comes a time when she wants Bert Jefferson. You don't know Bert, Sherry. He's gentle and he's unassuming, and, well, I love him, that's all.
Well, I remain completely unconvinced. You are drugging yourself into this Joanne Crawford fantasy, and before you come completely anesthetized, I shall do everything in my power to bring you to your senses.
Now listen to me, Whiteside. I know you. Lay off. I know what a devil you can be. I've seen you do it to other people, but don't you dare do it to me. Don't drug yourself into the idea that all you're thinking of is my happiness. Think of yourself a little bit too. And all those months of breaking in somebody new. I've seen you in a passion before when your life has been disrupted. You can't dine in Calcutta on July 12th with boo-boo. Well, that's too bad, but there it is. I'm going to marry Bert if he'll have me, and don't you dare try any of your tricks, because I'm onto every one of them. So lay off. That's my message to you, Big Lord Fauntleroy.
Long distance, please. I want to put in a transatlantic call. Hello? Transatlantic operator? This is Massilia, 142. I want to talk to Miss Lorraine Sheldon, Sheldon. She's on the Normandy. It sailed from Southampton the day before yesterday. We'll take. All right, Whiteside. Thank you.
Evening, Mr. Whiteside.
Come back tomorrow. I'm busy.
Now, what would be the best news I could possibly bring you?
You have hydrophobia.
No, Mr. Whiteside, you are a well man. You can get up and walk now. You can leave here tomorrow.
What do you mean?
Those x-rays again this afternoon. And do you know what? I had been looking at the wrong x-rays. I had been looking at old Mrs. absolutely well.
Lower your voice, will you?
What's the matter? Aren't you pleased?
Naturally. This is very unexpected bit of news, however. It comes out of very curious. Dr. Bradley, I have some good news for you too. I've been reading your book, 40 Years, what is it?
No, hi.
Yeah, I consider it extremely close to being the greatest literary contribution of our time.
Mr. Whiteside.
So strongly do I feel about it, Dr. Bradley, to make to you. Just here and there, the book is a little uneven, a little rough. And what I want to do is stay here in Massilia and work on it with you.
I'd be so terribly honored.
Yes, yes, but there's just one difficulty. You see, if my lecture bureau were to learn that I'm all well, they would insist on my fulfilling of my contracts, and I would be forced to leave Massilia. Therefore, we must not tell anyone, not anyone, that I am well.
I see.
Not even Miss Cutler, you understand?
No, I won't. Not a soul. Not even my husband.
That's fine.
Mr. Whiteside, when do we start work? Tonight? I've got just one patient that's dying, and then I'll be perfectly free.
A private call. Will you forgive me? Hello? Yes, I'm on. Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning it is. Good night. I'll be so proud to work with you. You've made me very proud, Mr. Whiteside.
Yes, yes, I know, very proud. Yes, yes, this is Mr. Whiteside on the phone. Put them through. Hello? Is this my Blossom girl? How are you, my lovely? No, no, I'm all right. Yes, still out here. Lorraine, dear, when do you land in New York? Tuesday? That's fine. Now, listen closely, my pet. I have great news for you. I've discovered a wonderful play with an enchanting part in it for you. Cornell would give her eye teeth to play it, but I think I can get it for you. Now, wait, let me tell you. The author is a young newspaperman in this town. Of course he wants Cornell, but if you jump on a train and get out here, I think you could swing it if you play your cards right. No, he's young and very attractive. Just your dish, my dear. And it takes a little doing, but you're the girl who can do it. Isn't that exciting, my pet? Yes. Yes, that's right. And look, don't send me any messages. Just get on the train and arrive. Oh no, don't thank me, my darling. It's perfectly all right. Have a nice trip and hurry out here. Goodbye, my Blossom. Hello, Miss Preen. God, you're looking radiant this evening.
Sherry, I'm sorry for what I said before. I'm afraid I was a little unjust.
That's all right, Maggie dear. We all lose our tempers now and then.
I promised to have dinner with Bert and go to a movie, but we'll come back and play cribbage instead.
Fine.
See you soon, Sherry dear. Goodbye.
Goodbye.